Fastlane with Frank Sparks. It's the show that talks about what's happening in the news, locally, regionally, and nationally. There will be guests, and Noah Haswell will have the news of the top and bottom of each hour. You're in the Fastlane. And now, here is the host of the show, Frank Sparks.
Hey, good morning, and welcome to Driving in the Fastlane. We're going to have some fun today. Well, I guess it's fun. I call it fun, but I don't know if my guests would call it fun because it's, I guess, kind of puzzling to them. Joining me this morning in hour number one is none other than Andy Gall. You know he's been here a couple times. Retired detective at this point, right?
Yes.
All right, and then also retired former Economy Borough Police Chief? Harmony Township Police Chief Jim Essek. So, and we're going to talk about a couple different cold cases this morning. Andy, you want to pull that mic over so it's like right in front of you there? So, perfect. All right. We have to get this one out of the way, though, because Scott Tatey has been driving me bananas for like all day long. He wants me to ask you about the case of the headless woman. So we're going to start there. I know we're planning to go elsewhere, but Scott's all day long.
That's actually the bodiless head.
The bodiless head, right.
That's
right.
the difference.
Yeah, right. So
I could feel that is Economy Borough.
Okay.
And, if you ever wanted a whole show on that one, I could bring Chief Mike O'Brien in here. He's like Jim and I. He's, I don't want to say obsessed because that's a bad idea, but I always consider these kind of cases, I call them whites because they're like the white whale that Captain Ahab was chasing.
Okay.
You think about them, things make you think about them. It makes you want to. The Anarochnik case is like the white whale for Jimmy and for Jack Lively, who was the chief before him. The head is Mike O'Brien's, and right now, the head is we buried the head a year after we found it. That was 2014. We found the head out on Mason Road in Economy, but we haven't forgotten about that. We did the show on Netflix. It's on there.
Right.
It still can be seen. It's called The Severed Head. Mike O'Brien and I, a couple of weeks ago, we just were invited to Philadelphia to the Vidoc Society, which is a conglomeration of people that own DNA companies, top-notch cops. I sat next to the former chief of detectives from Philadelphia who was having lunch with us there, and we did a presentation on the head for them. Then most of those people went home and watched the head on Netflix.
Yeah.
And we have a Zoom meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks with a couple of those people who have some ideas.
Huh.
The big issue with that one is a lot of people think right away, just get the DNA from the head. The embalming fluid, we've had 5 different attempts at getting DNA. We've used skin, the hair, the teeth, everything to try to get DNA from the head. We have those samples. They're still stored at the Economy Police Department. But none of these ones who have solved all kind of crimes all over the country can get the DNA out of there. And so but we still have samples in case they get another step there. But
so obviously there's never been a body found without a head that you could kind of start there?
There's been a couple bodies found without a head.
Right.
There's one famous one up in Canada. And the real problem is I don't speak French, and so when I call up there, we have a hard time. But but that one without the DNA, we can't match it.
Gotcha.
We have another one that happened in Kern County, California, where the body was found tied in a cornfield or some type of field out there, and she was tied, no head, and the head was missing. We, again, they have been able to, because of the body, they were able to get DNA and identify that person finally. Never found the head. Would like to get our DNA and see if we can match it up and see if this would be our head. There was one show. It comes on that show that happened a long period of time before, but it was stolen from a mausoleum, and the head was disappeared. It's never been recovered. So there are bodies out there without heads. If you Google headless bodies, most of them are like these gang things where they cut off the hands, cut off the head. That's not what we're looking for. This is an embalmed head, like it was prepared for a burial. The weird thing was that it where the eyes are supposed to be, there are red rubber balls like you used to use to play jacks with when you were a kid, and they were put there behind the eye caps, and it makes no sense at all. So,
because that's not something they would normally do.
No, and this isn't. I mean, we have people that say, well, when they were delivering the body to the to be embalmed or be doing it for a what is the word? If you don't get buried, you cremation. Yeah. Couldn't find, but anyway, that maybe the head just rolled out of the truck or something like that. That's not possible. That body is in very well protected and taken, and so somebody had to remove that. And if you watch the show, you'll see the guy who was our person of interest. He's very featured in that show, but we never had enough that we could ever even call him a suspect.
Right.
He was just a guy who was very interesting to us, and he was somewhat of an odd character, but not a criminal typically, but he sort of fits what we were looking for.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we, before we head to our first break, how about giving our listeners a little bit of background on who Andy Gall is?
Oh, well, Andy Gall is a guy that grew up in Baden and always wanted to be a policeman. When you realize that I'm 71, that was a time when people didn't necessarily want to be policemen back in the late 60s, early 70s. But I always wanted to be one. I grew up next door to the Baden police chief, who was a great guy. And so I was lucky enough. I worked in Monaca as a police officer, in Chippewa for a short time, in Baden. Then I got hired by the district attorney's office in 1988 because I was never much of a traffic writer. I was always the guy they called when an investigation needed to be done. And I was fairly successful at that. And so I got hired by the DA, and I worked there from 1988 until 2023, and when I finally retired.
Wow.
So I put 49 years in as carrying a badge, and had a lot of fun doing it. Saw a lot of tragedy, but had a lot of more fun than tragedy.
Seems like you have a passion now to talk about the cases and talk about your years.
My wife would wish that I would quit, but when you retire, like Jimmy, we become part of, I was even before, part of Crime Solvers so that we can still do something. We have money to offer as rewards if people can help us solve a crime. I'm not going to go out and do any investigation myself, but if we get somebody that has a tip, we want them to call the Harmony Township Police, the State Police, the Beaver County Detective, somebody. And those guys are all capable of taking it from there.
All right. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit about you. So who is Jim Essek?
So when I didn't always want to be a policeman.
Okay.
When I graduated high school, I went to work at J&L. That's where my dad was a carpenter foreman. And that lasted until 1982 when they shut the mill down. And I was in our fire department, and one of our commissioners suggested I become a policeman. So I got on the Harmony Township Police Department in 1982 as part-time, and in 1986 I was hired full-time. And I worked there until 2015. I was on the DROP program, it's a pension program that I had to retire, and so I did retire. And in 2015, I had 32 years, and since then I've traveled. Andy keeps involving me in all these projects and programs that he had. He convinced me to get onto the Crime Solvers board of directors, and I I was happy to do that, and keeps me still involved. I'm still involved with a lot of the police officers' I was the president of the FOP for 14 years.
Okay.
And
And at one point, you were the police chief as well?
I was. I started as a patrolman, then became a sergeant, and then when Jack Lively was the chief, my last 2 years, I was the chief of police.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, we're going to when we come back, we're going to talk about a case that's going to be 20 years old on Christmas Eve. And you'll be welcome to call in and weigh in. And, if you have any questions for either Andy or Jim, you can do that as well. And the phone lines will be open at 724-774-1888 and 843-1888. We'll be right back with more right after this.
Want to make football season better than ever this year? Plan now to join your friends at the Hangar in Moon Township, the place where good times and great food meet. Watch your favorite sporting event on one of their 18 big screen TVs while you enjoy their famous wings, beer-battered fish, pizza, or Taco Tuesdays indoors or on the outdoor patio. Check out their award-winning menu online for lunch, dinner, or a special night out. This football season, hang out with your friends at the Hangar, the best-kept secret in Moon Township at 500 Flaherty Run Road.
It might be time to repair or replace that old garage door. Call on Robin and her team of expert installers at Electric Garage Door Sales in Monaca. Dial 724-774-3200 and your door will work like a charm. Featuring CHI quality garage doors, LiftMaster garage door openers, and over 50 years experience, Robin and her team will get it done right. Electric Garage Door Sales. Give them a call at 724-774-3200 or find them online at electricgaragedoorsales.com.
J. Young Refuse and Industry is proud to be an integral part of Beaver County for the past 36 years. Featuring a wide range of recycling services for contracted areas, they are sure to help you get the job done. The J. Young Refuse team of professional drivers consistently exceed safety and service throughout the day, while their customer service representatives take professionalism to the next level. J. Young Refuse offers both commercial and residential pickup as well. Call J. Young Refuse at 724-495-6199 today.
Geneva College is glad to call Beaver County home. As your neighbor for 144 years, we know how important it is to have education that fits your busy life. Geneva offers graduate programs both online and on campus, giving you the flexibility to learn on your schedule. Designed for working adults, our Christ-centered programs help you grow in your career while staying connected to the community that you love. Take the next step today. Visit geneva.edu/graduate to explore your options and apply now.
Join a team that's been making a difference for over a century. St. Barnabas Health System is hiring full-time security officers for night shifts in Gibsonia and Valencia. Work 12-hour shifts from 8:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m., plus every other weekend, and earn competitive pay starting at $17 an hour plus shift differential. Enjoy full benefits, flexible scheduling, and the satisfaction of helping keep residents safe in a respected and growing healthcare system. Take the next step in your career. Apply now at stbarnabashealthsystem.com/careers or call 724-444-JOBS.
Listen to Beaver County Radio every Monday and Friday in the 11 o'clock hour for the Beaver County Humane Society's Pick of the Litter. We'll be highlighting one resident animal from the shelter that needs a loving home. Pick of the Litter is being brought to you each and every Monday and Friday by Tom Sipes Demolition, Nally Elias and Associates, Balcones Moon Township Ford, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, the Alvarez Hahn Funeral Home, J. Young Refuse, McGee Heating and Air Conditioning, and Beaver County Radio. Check out the Pick of the Litter on our website at beavercountyradio.com.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in Beaver County Radio or watch the Best of Beaver County live on Facebook or YouTube video this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the Best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com.
You're driving in the fast lane
with Frank Sparks on 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. You can also stream live on beavercountyradio.com.
It is 10:25 on your Thursday morning, and I just programmed out Best of Beaver County. It's supposed to come up at 11 o'clock, but unfortunately our guest Kevin Camp from Beaver Supermarket is having a little technical issues, kind of like we had the other day, and he's not able to make it today, so we'll get Kevin rescheduled as soon as we can. In the meantime, here this morning, we are talking with Andy Gall. He's a retired detective, as well as a retired police officer, Jim Essek. And we're talking about some of the cold cases in Beaver County. But a specific one we want to hit on this morning is coming up on Christmas Eve will be the 20-year anniversary of the killing of Anna Rocknick. Did I say right? Rocknick. Okay. All right. So she was in Harmony Township.
That's correct.
So take us through a little bit, like set the scene for us of what happened that night.
So at approximately 2:15 a.m., the Beaver County 911 Center received a call from a frantic woman claiming that she had been beaten in her home and that she was bleeding. They were able to trace the call back to 1215 May Street, which was the Anna Rocknick residence. Two officers, one from Harmony, Bob Santo, and Dave Alvarez, who was a Baden police officer at the time. They both responded to the residence. They had noticed that the front door had been pried open. They entered the house and found Anna Rocknick sitting on her couch, had severe injuries to her head, was bleeding, and they noticed that there was a lot of blood around. They checked the inside of the house. There was no actor inside the house besides Anna Rocknick. They contacted an ambulance. An ambulance showed up. In the meantime, myself, who I was a sergeant at the time, and Jack Lively, who was the chief at the time, were also called out. Because of the severity of the injury, several other police officers showed up, and Anna had told the officers that a white male had broken into her house and came into her bedroom and was beating her in the head looking for money. Anna didn't have any money, and she told them that several times. By the time I arrived there, the ambulance was still there. Jack Lively arrived at the same time as I did. Jack went in and spoke with Anna. We all knew Anna. Jack lived approximately half a mile from her. The way to get to this house, you actually had to ride past our police station. While Woodland Road, Jack lived on Woodland Road. Bob Santo, who is the officer who responded, he also lived on Woodland Road. So they both lived within a half a mile. I grew up 2 doors away from Anna Rocknick. So we were familiar with her. Right. She was 94 years old, lived alone. Her husband had passed a long time ago. So once the ambulance, Jack went in, talked to her, and she actually told Jack that the devil did this to her. So they transported her to the hospital once we got everything set up, and then Jack and I went to the hospital to continue the interview of Anna. We arrived probably 15 minutes later, and we were informed that she had been placed in an induced coma because of the severity of the blunt force trauma to her head, and she never came out of the coma, and so they pronounced her dead then. So that's what started this all. So this actually, in 2005, was only the third homicide that had taken place in Harmony Township since Harmony Township was formed back in the 1880s. Wow. And the one was the chief of police, whose son actually murdered him. And there was another one, we're not sure if she was killed in Harmony or Alacopa, but her body was found dead, and we had made an arrest on that. And Andy was involved in that one too. So again, we started our investigation. We didn't have a lot to go on just because there was an unknown person. We knew it was a white male. So the investigation started, and as of today, the investigation is still going on. Wow. We interviewed hundreds of people.
Any suspects at any time? Or?
We did. We had there was a lot of suspects. We had lists, and we've got when we sort of had binders on everybody that we had. And again, what we started, doing door to doors. We heard, somebody, one of the neighbors' mirror was hit, so we tracked that down. We started tracking everything down. We used old warrants to try to find it. We didn't have a lot to go on. The Pennsylvania State Police showed up within a couple of hours. Their R&I, which is their crime scene. That officer, that trooper, and one of the Harmony Township officers, Bob Sivrite, spent 18 hours in the house collecting evidence. There was several items that we thought might have DNA on it. So we actually sent those items. Back then, DNA wasn't all that popular.
Right.
We were only able to submit 3 or 4 items for them to test, and there really was no unknown DNA. A lot of them had the blood. When she picked up the phone, which was still a dial phone that she used back in 2005, there was a lot of blood on that. So we were hoping to find some DNA on other items. We did find a few things, but the lab couldn't run them. One of the items was a hair, and they were, back then, like I said, DNA was sort of new. That item, they could not run it, so we actually made contact with the FBI and the Connecticut State Police, had a contract with them. They were doing mitochondrial DNA, which is actually they split the hair to get DNA out of it. We over the years, like I said, I retired in 2015, so it was 10 years. We probably interviewed, and when we would get somebody that looked like a good suspect to us, we would basically ask them if they would take a polygraph and submit DNA, and all of them, but one did that, and we were actually able to. They all passed. One suspect, about 4 years after the murder, after not hearing anything for about 6 months to a year, we started.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and take a time out. We'll be back with more right after this on Beaver County Radio.
Responsibility to the public. The Beaver County Bar Association surveyed its members on whether Judge Dale Faust should be retained in the upcoming November 2025 election. This non-political, confidential poll reflects the informed opinions of local attorneys who have observed Judge Faust's performance firsthand. 97% of members responding to the poll favor Judge Faust's retention. Information about the poll can be found at www.bcba-pa.org, paid for by the Beaver County Bar Association. What's everyone in Beaver County talking about? It's Beaver County Radio, brought to you exclusively by Fry Transportation. Beaver County Radio and Fry Transportation, a winning team in Beaver County.
The Truck Series title fight is tight, heading to Talladega. I'm Kyle Rickey. That story next on NASCAR Hot Pass. All the car parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love.
Hi, folks. Kyle Petty here. I want to tell you about a place that's dear to my heart, Victory Junction. It's a year-round camp that gives kids with complex medical and physical conditions life-changing experiences that are fun, empowering, and always free for families. Please help Victory Junction support kids who need it the most by making a donation today. Any amount will help kids attend camp for free. Help make a difference by visiting victoryjunction.org/donate.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
This year's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship is still wide open, with just 5 points separating second-place point man Tyler Ankrum from 8th-place driver Caden Honeycutt, heading to tomorrow's Love's RV Stop 225 at the Talladega Superspeedway. Only Corey Heim, who won the series' last race at the Charlotte Roval 2 weeks ago, is locked into the Championship 4 in 2 weeks in Phoenix. Along with Ankrum and Honeycutt, Daniel Hemrick, Rajah Caruth, Lane Riggs, Ty Majeski and Grant Enfinger are also hoping to earn a spot among the championship 4 tomorrow. Hear tomorrow's Craftsman Truck Series race at 3:30 Eastern Time on the NASCAR Racing Network. This is NASCAR Hot Pass on the Motor Racing Network.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and BeaverCountyRadio.com. Here's Noah Haswell.
Good morning. On this Thursday, October 16th of 2025, we will have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. Pennsylvania State Police in Beaver reported via release yesterday that 25-year-old Tavon Goodnight of Baden was apprehended on Tuesday for being the suspect of a shooting in Aliquippa on Tuesday, which killed 24-year-old Gavad Tyson. This shooting occurred at approximately 9:05 p.m. at 1117 Wade Street. Goodnight and an unidentified 21-year-old woman were reported to be involved in this incident, and Goodnight shot once with his firearm, which hit Tyson in his right thigh when Goodnight got involved in a physical altercation with Tyson. Tyson was pronounced dead a short time later in Heritage Valley, Swickley. Beaver County District Attorney Nate Bible approved a criminal homicide charge for Goodnight, who is in the Beaver County Jail without bail. Several topics, including safety, were discussed at the Beaver County Commissioners' work session yesterday morning at 10 a.m. at the Beaver County Courthouse in Beaver. How does Beaver County safeguard their residents from violent attacks was a question that was asked to the Beaver County Commissioners during the audience participation segment of the session. Here are the responses from Beaver County Solicitor Garen Fidelis and Beaver County Commissioner Chairman Dan Camp.
I would say we have a county ESU unit that is second to none. Compared to other counties around the area, ours is much more tactically advanced, much more organized, and I think we can say for the residents of Beaver County, we have an elite unit that's available that if something like that were to happen.
We did just recently, this past year, invest in hiring of one individual who's full-time that only focuses on those types of things. So training businesses, training schools, training fairs, any football games, anything that they need, the county does offer those resources for.
The Ambridge Area School District put on its agenda list at their Meet and Discuss Board meeting on October 8, 2025, that it is recommended for Ambridge High School football coach Sherman McBride to resign after the 2025 high school football season. McBride is a native of Aliquippa, a 1980 graduate of Aliquippa High School, and a member of the Beaver County Sports Hall of Fame. McBride will finish his 5th season as the Ambridge High School head football coach after he was hired to serve in that position in 2021. 23-year-old Derek Johnson Jr. of Pittsburgh died at Allegheny General Hospital following a late-night crash on Tuesday on I-279 in Pittsburgh. Johnson was driving his motorcycle on I-279 south at 11:58 p.m. on Tuesday when he lost control, overturning it. Johnson slid his motorcycle into the vehicle of 40-year-old Kevin Daly of Pittsburgh. And a 16-year-old suspect has now been charged in connection with a shooting at the Ross Park Mall in Pittsburgh, which injured one person on September 30th, 2025. This teenage boy faces gun charges, aggravated assault, and reckless endangerment. The suspect shot another teenager who showed up to Allegheny General Hospital after shots were fired. According to a criminal complaint, the teen at the hospital shot told investigators they had been shot while walking in the Ross Park Mall parking lot near the Dick's Sporting Goods House of Sport. The teenager who was injured shot back, and police confirmed the two teenagers attend the same school. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of the suspect, and it is unclear if the teenager that was hurt in this shooting at the Ross Park Mall will face charges.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Mostly sunny today. We'll see highs near 61. Clear skies and a little on the chilly side tonight, as a freeze watch will be in effect late this evening through early Friday morning as we drop down to lows around 35. And some patchy frost to start the day tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll see lots of sunshine throughout the day, along with a slight chance of showers in the late evening. Expect to see highs of 63 and lows of 46. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Thursday, October the 16th, of 2025 at 40 minutes after 10, we've got a temperature of 52 degrees currently in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM, AM 1230 WBVP, 95.7 FM, and 1460 AM WMBA. Also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Hot coffee in the morning and Frank Sparks. Now you're in the fast lane. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and streaming live on beavercountyradio.com.
All right, it's 10:40 here in Beaver County, and talking this morning about cold cases, and one in particular, and that's the case of Anna Rocknick, and she was murdered on Christmas Eve of 2005, and we're visiting with Jim Essek and also with Andy Gall talking this morning about this case. And Jim was one of the investigators on this case as well as a police officer in Harmony Borough. So tell us a little bit about the specifics. I mean, like, so you were talking earlier, she was beat. They were beating her in her head. There was no I don't know any better way to put it, but like he wasn't after her to rape her or anything like that. It was just after money.
We believe that it was a burglary.
Okay.
The front door had been pried open, and the marks on the door led us to believe that it was either a crowbar or possibly a tire iron. And when he was beating her, he hit her 7 times in the head. There was 7 skull fractures. And after every time that he hit her, he would keep saying to her, "Where's your money? Where's your money? Where's your money?" And there was a thing. She was 94 years old.
Right.
Back then there was a thing that older people like hid their money.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier that my mom, I grew up in the neighborhood 2 doors over. When I responded there, one of my main concerns was my mother, because she was living alone at the time also. But when I pulled up in front of her house, which was 2 doors away, I saw my sister's car from Virginia. My sister and my brother-in-law and their kids had come in for Christmas, and so they were at the house. So I wasn't concerned about my mom's safety. But Anna's house, it was Christmas. It was early morning, Christmas Eve. A lot of the houses, most of the houses, had their Christmas lights were still on. Anna's house was dark. There wasn't any lights on. She slept with no lights on. So we're wondering whether the suspect just thought the house was empty and would burglarize it, because there was some of the area of the house, the drawers had been taken out. A lot of the areas, the drawers were just ripped out and thrown around. So whether he came across her in the bedroom thinking the house was unoccupied, we're not sure. We weren't there. She was unable to tell us anymore. So that's what, it led us to, on our search for this suspect. And when I talked earlier, hundreds of people. We had even the bad guys. We were all over the county, Allegheny County, Beaver County, picking people up, bringing people in. If somebody said this person might be involved, we went and got them and talked to them and interviewed them. And even the bad guys thought this was wrong. You don't beat a 94-year-old woman in her home. So everybody was trying to help. So after 6 months, a year, we started talking like we couldn't believe, because most crimes, a lot of the crimes are solved because somebody tells.
Right.
That person who committed that crime might say something to somebody, and they'll tell somebody, and then it eventually gets back to law enforcement. That didn't happen on this. We kept having people say, "I think this person did," and we would track them down and find them, and they either had an alibi or for whatever reason we were able to eliminate them. About 3 or 4 years into the investigation, Crime Solvers had put up a reward. Harmony Township threw in $5,000. Crime Solvers threw in $5,000. So there was a $10,000 reward put out. They received a phone call that we needed to look at this particular person, because 3 years earlier, on Christmas Day, when this person showed up at a family Christmas, he had scratches on his face. So when we got a call from Beaver Police, ran the phone part of Crime Solvers.
Mm-hmm.
When we got a call who it was, I knew him. He grew up in the same area that I grew up in, so he'd have been familiar with Mrs. Rocknick. So we tracked him down, called him, went to his apartment, wasn't there, called him on the phone and said, hey, this is Jim, da-da-da-da, can you talk to us? And he goes, am I in trouble? No, we just need to talk to you.
Right.
So we made arrangements to meet. We met him at a coffee shop, came in, started a conversation. How have you been? Where have you been? So he said for about the last 3 years, he'd been out of town. His profession took him out of town, and he was in different states working. And he just recently came back to the area. So it started making sense. Okay, we're sort of talking to him a little bit and stuff like that. So he finally said to me, after probably a good 10 minutes of conversation, he said to me, well, what's this about? I says, well, it's about Mrs. Rocknick. And he said to me, who? I says, Mrs. Rocknick. I don't know who that is. I said his name, and I said, the old lady that was killed in our old neighborhood. And he goes, immediately says, oh, I put myself in the rehab the next day because I was in a bad place.
Oh, red flag right there, right?
Now I'm like, okay, because again, this was a general conversation that we had with 100 people or more. So I started, okay, now I need to be a little careful on what I'm going to say. And so we decided, well, where have you been? So he started, an analogy of or chronologically where he had been from from that day forward. He put himself into rehab, had gotten thrown out of rehab, had gone out of state, was in 3 or 4 different states doing his profession, and just recently had come back. And after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, he finally looked at me and said, Jim, do you really think I killed her? And I said, well, 20 minutes ago, no. I said, but you've done nothing to convince me that you don't have anything to do with this. I said, so listen, this is what we've been doing. I said, I believe at this point we had about 20 people that were suspects that had agreed to take a polygraph and give us a DNA sample. And they all came in, took the polygraph, passed the polygraph, and gave us a DNA sample. I said, so they're eliminated. So to eliminate you, you think you'd give us a polygraph and take the polygraph and give us a DNA? No. Why? Well, I called my attorney before I came here, and he told me if you asked that to tell you no. I said, so you already spoke with an attorney? He said, yes. And I said, okay, well, this conversation has ended. He says, well, what's that mean now? I said, well, I think you've become our number one suspect. And so we started doing investigation. And we found that he, in fact, did go into rehab the next day, had gotten thrown out of rehab, had gone to several different states, had, in his profession, was charged several times with ripping off homeowners, has been arrested and charged with several crimes. He has, so we started our own, background on him and found out that he was actually had a couple cases recently here, but never talked to his family, and nobody wanted to really cooperate.
So why couldn't you ever charge him?
We didn't have any evidence.
Okay. Well, that's the key thing there, yeah.
But of all the people and binders and banker boxes full of files, he's I'm pretty confident that this person is the one that committed it. But matter of fact, just yesterday, there's stuff on Facebook about him down in Florida, ripping off people, and there's posts on there which I've reached out. My nephew is actually a deputy sheriff in Florida, and reached out to him, and the person who posted on Facebook, was a fictitious name. That person does not exist.
Gotcha.
So we are still, like I said, even though we're retired, our police department is still investigating. The Beaver County detectives are still investigating it. They have done several cases. We had the FBI. I can't remember what they're.
Sounds like it's that one case that just bothers you that you can't get solved.
I mean, like I said, I grew up.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially
she was older.
her.
I mean, so at the time, my mom recently passed. She was 95. When she passed last February, that was 20 years ago. So my mom would have been 70. She was 95.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I said, real quiet, didn't, kept to herself, And so like I said, I think what it was probably, a home invasion. So that person broke in thinking the house was empty and would get something out, but there was nothing. We could not, her sister and her brother-in-law were very active with helping us. They went through the house. We couldn't find anything that was missing, short of what we only was missing was a mama son and papa son little statue. And like I said, nothing, no jewelry that would have been pawned. And so basically, she didn't keep money, even though that was a thing. Older people kept money in their house. So whether he thought this suspect knew her, which if it's the person I'm thinking, he definitely would have known who she was, might not have known her name, but definitely knew because it lived right around the corner.
All right, 724-774-1888, 843-1888. If you have any questions or comments, and we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back with more right after this. October is Spooktacular Savings Month on all new in-stock 2025 Ford F-150s at Moon Township Ford. But it's much more than that. It's time for the Beaver County Radio annual Trunk or Treat Car Cruise event at 4301 Dutch Ridge Road in Brighton Township on Saturday, October the 18th from 4 to 6 p.m. As the proud presenting sponsor of the Trunk or Treat, everyone at Moon Township Ford invites you to come out to the biggest and best car cruise of the season, an event that's both spooktacular and spectacular for the whole family. Fun activities for kids and adults alike as well. Moon Township Ford will be displaying a few of their cars, along with classic cars sure to turn heads. Visit Moon Township Ford this month for their October Spooktacular savings on 2025 Ford F-150s, or visit them during the Trunk or Treat Car Cruise on Dutch Ridge Road on Saturday, October the 18th from 4 to 6 p.m.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Tune in to Beaver County Radio after the Friday night football game for the Falcone's Moon Township Ford wrap-up show. Beaver County Radio's Mike Azadian and Ryan Garazunas will have the scores, standings, and any news from the games. They will also take your phone calls so you can talk about your favorite team. The Falcone's Moon Township Ford wrap-up show is being brought to you by Electric Garage Door Sales, Forward RX, Patriot Home Care, the YMCA, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, All Access Automotive, Drug Free Aliquippa, the St. Barnabas Health System, the Fry Transportation Group, the Community College of Beaver County, Tri-State Sporting Arms, Vape and Roll With It, Friendly Federal Credit Union, Carver Construction, Falcone's Moon Township Ford, and Beaver County Radio 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and BeaverCountyRadio.com.
Yankee Trader, Saturday mornings from 10 to noon.
Freedom United Federal Credit Union proudly presents Yankee Trader.
Yankee Trader, buy, sell, or trade.
Yankee Trader is presented by Freedom United Federal Credit Union and in part by Rochester Paving and Seal Coating.
Oh, the one and only Count Frankie here. Are you looking for something fun to take your little goblins to? Well, join Falcone's Moon Township Ford, Dan Hoffman State Farm Insurance, and Beaver County Radio for a ghoulish good time on Saturday, October the 18th for a Trunk or Treat car cruise from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Beaver County Radio Studios located at 4301 Dutch Ridge Road in Brighton Township. There will be all kinds of activities for the kiddies, including face painting, pumpkin decorating, a ducky derby, and a train ride. One person will win a Pit Boss 8-in-1 grill, courtesy of the Rochester True Value. There's no purchase necessary, and every adult will receive one ticket and a chance to win. There'll be a 50-50, a chance auction, and trick-or-treating from the trunk of cars. Anyone can participate, and your vehicle doesn't have to be a hot rod to give out treats. Adults are also encouraged to dress up, and there'll be prizes given for the best costumes. Beaver County Radio's Trunk or Treat is being presented by Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends, and Dan Hoffman State Farm Insurance in Brighton Township. Beaver County Radio's Trunk or Treat is also brought to you by J. Young Refuse, Electric Garage Door Sales, True Value Hardware inside the East Rochester Shop and Save, and Beaver County Radio.
Weekday mornings were meant to drive in the fast lane. It's Frank Sparks on Beaver County Radio.
And we're back here on Driving in the Fast Lane. And this morning we're visiting with former Detective Andy Gall and also former police officer Jim Essek. And we're talking about the Anna Rocknick murder that happened, it'll be 20 years ago on Christmas Eve this year. And just working through like the list of suspects and talking a little bit about one particular suspect. But one of my questions is was there any other crimes that were committed kind of similarly to that around that time that you might have been able to link this particular suspect to as well?
No. Harmony Township is basically, other than Dust Avenue, which would be the commercial areas,
right,
is mainly residential. Mm-hmm. We have about 1,400 homes, 4,000 people, relatively low. Most of the people that live in Harmony Township own their own home. We don't have a lot of rental units or anything like that. So burglary-wise, no. And I mentioned earlier about the homicides. We have, that was our first one in 30 years or whatever it was. So there wasn't. But we did have a lot. Like it had snowed, so there were footprints going through. Right across the street was a playground, so there were footprints that went from there through the playground down over the hill. So we followed those. And we actually, a house on Economy Street, we tracked those footprints too. So we knocked on the door. The next thing you know, a guy was jumping out of the second floor window in his underwear and took off running.
Okay.
So, and he was a known person, and we end up chasing him down. And he actually hitchhiked the ride, but I spotted the guy in the car, stopped the car, and took him in and asked him along the hill. He just says, "That's what I do when the police show up. I run." All right, so we were able to eliminate him. During the time, as I said, Anna was not sexually assaulted, but there were a couple of people that did, in fact, meet that. And Andy had one that he was involved in, that it was actually a subject from Baden that he got to know quite a bit, if Andy.
Well, what happened is, and this happened after Anna's case, about a year or so, an elderly woman from Baden, which of course is right next to Harmony Township, wakes up. Her phone was also pulled out, like Anna's was, the one by her bed. She wakes up to a shadowy figure over her who was licking her breasts. And like I said, an older woman, very nice lady. She starts to fight against a man. The guy put a pillow over her face, but instead of holding it down against her, he then takes off running. That fellow, the Baden police called, and we went up to assist. Our investigation takes us, and we were able to solve that one pretty quickly. And when we brought him in, he ends up denying everything. But when I asked him for DNA, because we were able to take DNA samples from her chest, he ended up then admitting to what he had done.
Now, what year was this?
That would have been about 2007.
Okay.
And so that was, of course, the relation that we thought. We have two elderly women who live alone in the house, somebody break in, and the phone being ripped out of the wall. In Anna's case, the cord was cut, but this one was yanked out. And so we thought we had a good suspect with him. Well, he admitted to what he had done to the woman in Baden. Then I says, look, there's something more you want to tell me. And he says, I do. And so he tells me that he's been paying his niece money to lick her chest. And so I says, well, how about Mrs. Rocknick? And he completely denied that all the way. We ended up, he took a polygraph for us and passed it. He gave us a DNA sample, gave us a hair sample in case that hair that we talked about that was in the bed would match. He cooperated completely and said he did not do that. We went so far, Harmony Township Police had held the evidence, of course, on the Rocknick case. We got the clothing that Mrs. Rocknick had on to see if we could test the chest area for DNA to see if it would have been there, and that came up negative. So that guy, for what he had done to the other older woman, spent 17 years in prison.
Wow.
And when he got out, I still went to visit him one more time. I was still working. I still went to visit him, talked to him. He was ill at that point. Asked him, I said, look, get this off your conscience, tell it. And he says, I'm telling you, that's not me. Keep looking. You have to keep looking. And so I think it was a very sparsely attended funeral when he died, but I was there. And none of his family knew anything about him being involved in that. So he was a good one. We had the night of the murder, Anna's murder, we had a prowler call in Ambridge, but we followed that up, but that didn't match up with anything. And not far around the bend, when we were doing the neighborhood canvass, a guy who was known to the Harmony Police as a drug dealer who's lived in the neighborhood, his girlfriend heard somebody at their door, which made us think that there's a possibility that the person who came up there went to the drug dealer's house to buy drugs. Well, that guy it was Christmas, he wasn't in business that day. And so then maybe because he couldn't get any drugs or he needed money, that he would have tried to burglarize Rocknick's house. So that's always been a possibility that we looked at too. Our suspect that Jimmy's was talking about, we know he was a drug user, so that would fit into his category too. And we also found, we went to the break, but the other thing about our suspect number one is that he had done some work for a neighbor of Anna Rocknick a very short time before she was murdered. So he was back up in that neighborhood right before this all
So he could have easily been scoping it out the whole time he was painting.
Absolutely.
So the from what's left with this what number one suspect and with the DNA and things that were left, or what was left from Anna Rocknick's clothing and things of that day, is there any way that nowadays it could be tested to prove anything?
They've been doing that, as Andy mentioned. The crime lab, because of the I don't know what word to use, but the new technology, they have on several occasions submitted more of the evidence to see. If I'm not mistaken, the hair that was actually ended up being an animal, I believe, wasn't it?
No, the hair came back that it was from the Anna Rocknick's family.
Right.
And
right.
So
That's
it would
what
have
it was.
been. And Anna lived there alone. She had a son, lived up in Moon Township. Daughter lived up in Moon Township with a son-in-law. That's right. And we talked to them. We talked to her sisters were in the house regularly, so it could have been any of their hair. So the hair that we had our hopes on.
There was no roots on that hair.
Gotcha.
So that's why they ended up doing it. They split it, and I couldn't remember exactly.
All right. If you have any questions, you're welcome to call at 724-774-1888 or 843-1888. Hang on for 1 second here. We're going to run an ID since it's the top of the hour, and we'll continue in a second.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.
And because we don't have the best of Beaver County today, Kevin Camp, who was the best of Beaver County today, unfortunately had to cancel. We'll have another edition as we do have some guests scheduled for next week. So next Thursday, let me see if I can bring it up here real quick who our guest next Thursday will be on the best of Beaver County. And the next week we will have, Joe DeChilli from Scrappy Joe's. You hear him. He's a Beaver Falls guy, lives in Oil City now. So he'll be our guest on the best of Beaver County next week. Meantime, we're visiting with Andy Gall and Jim Essek. We're talking about cold case Beaver County, in particular the Anna Rocknick case that will be 20 years old coming this Christmas Eve. Seems like this suspect that you feel would be your number one suspect was very careful not to leave anything behind.
Well, we're not sure. I mean, before I came up here, my wife and I were talking about it, and she's asking again a lot of the same questions you were. It was cold. He had a hooded sweatshirt on, and we're assuming that he had gloves on. So you're really not going to leave a lot of DNA if you're not touching anything with your skin, especially if he's clothed, and especially if he had a hooded sweatshirt on that was pulled tight. So, like I said, there really wasn't a lot, and what we were hoping on, happening was that, again, somebody would talk.
Right.
And because that didn't happen, that's what we more or less felt, this person left the area or is dead.
Right.
One of the two is dead, and, whatever happened. But
you said about the scratches on the face. It's a wonder there wasn't DNA under her fingernails.
Whether she even had that opportunity, or where that scratch came from. Maybe, however he fled the residence, because and again, it was the only way to get into that area back there is go right past our police station, and there really wasn't a lot. So whether he left on foot, because we had cameras at our police department.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
And, we were able to look at our cameras for that time period to see if any unknown vehicles, came or went, and there wasn't any. So that's what we assumed that they left on foot.
Okay.
And
there wasn't no street nearby or anything that they could park on and then run through the backyard or anything?
They could have, but again, you would have had to
go through.
Leave and drive right past the municipal building, which we had cameras on that face Woodland Road. So we would have been able to see coming and going. And we actually did track down a couple of the cars just to see who they were and, why we're there. But in the immediate time frame, there really wasn't anybody that came through. So that's why we figured that person would have been on foot. So like I said, we just were hoping somebody would call. And we really thought that somebody would call because, again, it was very well publicized. I mean, we brought, there was a neighbor's mirror had been hit. So we actually started tracking people down and thought that we had the right person, brought that person in. He did, there was other warrants for him, so we brought him in, and it was the news stations were all around. And what was happening is if we would bring somebody in for an interview, the news stations were accusing them of, we have the guy.
Yeah.
So it became an issue. So what we started having to do was, if we're bringing the person in a police car, we'd have them duck down in the seat, cover everything up, and drive to an enclosed garage so they actually didn't see who we were bringing in, because there was a lot of times it was just people wanting to come in and give us information. So we spent a lot of time. Like Andy said, that was early the 24th. I don't think I went home until about the 27th. Because we had hoped that this was going to be a quick one, and it wasn't. But,
so to this day, you're still tracking who you think is the number one suspect?
The county detectives that are still there. The officer one of the officers that was promoted to chief of police after I was Bob Sivray. He was actually the officer who was in the house with the state police taking the evidence, looking for the evidence. He has since recently retired, but he, along with Pat Young, who took Andy's position as the chief county detective. About 3 years ago, they did a more intense. It's not forgotten, and even though that's what we refer to them as cold cases, it's not cold, because cold means it's just set off to the side,
right?
And, forgotten about. It's not. I can't even think of all the, remember all of the. Penn State did a video. We've done numerous. The Beaver County Times did a video. We're trying to keep it public because you never know. Somewhere, somehow, somebody might talk about it, and that's why we want to keep it, fresh. That if somebody does or somebody starts to mention, we don't go out and grab somebody and drag them in. We just it's a friendly conversation. Just like the guy started talking with. I knew him. He grew up with my younger brother. I was very familiar with him, and I called him as a courtesy, thinking, again, never thought that he might have. 15, 20 minutes of conversation with him, it just...
Has there ever been any other possible suspects after him?
I think there was a few that people had said, this guy said this. Turned out he was in a bar, and they were talking about it, and then somebody, and again, and like I said, even though the reward money was there, a lot of times people might create a story up to try to blame somebody to try to get the reward. The person who actually called Crime Solvers to give the tip was a relative of the guy. Okay. And so...
Just can't piece it. Hopefully someday, somewhere, somebody can piece that final piece together for you.
And we have had, we had a guy who looked pretty good. He had, until we found he had the perfect alibi. The night of the murder, he was in the Beaver County Jail on a different charge. We had people, Jimmy mentioned early, that even the bad guys, they felt you can't do this to a 94-year-old woman.
Right.
They would tell us who the burglars were at that time, and we went around and we tracked, and those were the first ones. They said, you can have my DNA, I'll take the polygraph, I didn't do that, and it...
we actually solved a lot of crimes.
Yes.
Oh, really?
We solved a lot of crimes.
Lesser crimes than the homicide.
In
but
that,
through that
next day to about a year, that people were coming in and saying, this guy did this burglary. And so we'd end up contacting that police officer. And what's a little ironic about this, a few years prior to Mrs. Rocknick being murdered, her brother-in-law, who was come down, came to the police department to report that a contractor had come to Anna's house and convinced her that her roof was leaking. And she gave him $2,000 to fix the roof. Well, it turned out it was a scam. He had a bottle of water in a small squeeze bottle in his hand, and when he pointed at her ceiling, squirted the water, said, look, your roof is leaking. So Ann, I believe, was about 87 or 88 at the time. So there really wasn't much, and it had been 2 or 3 weeks. The check was cashed for cash. There was no account, nothing that we could track that back on. But we told her, Anna, listen, if this would ever happen again, don't open your door, just call 911. Well, about a year later, Anna calls 911 and tells the dispatcher, he's back. And the dispatcher said, who? The guy that stole money from me. Well, it just so happened myself and Officer Santo were working daylight. Again, you can't get out from Anna's house unless you ride past the police station. As we're heading to Anna's house, there's a truck with ladders on it, with New Jersey plates on it. We stop it and take the person to the station. It's him and his son. And lo and behold, it's the same guy who a year prior had ripped Ann off for the $2,000. After our investigation, it was determined that he had been in the area a year prior, had gotten over $25,000 from several homeowners in Beaver County, Brighton Township, Monaca, Rochester, and we charged him with the theft of Anna's, and then also charged him. He ended up spending 9 months in the Beaver County Jail and paid $25,000 in restitution, made everybody whole on who he stole. He was released early from jail with the promise never to return to Beaver County. So after Anna was murdered, he was one of the people that we thought, well, did he come back
Right, that makes
to
sense.
retaliate? He was currently in jail in Florida for ripping people off. Not the same person that we thought of, that I've been talking about, a different person. He was basically a roofing contractor, and it basically what everybody refers to as the gypsies.
Gotcha.
And that's
Yep.
how they go around and rip people off, and it's coincidental. But again, she was, for 87 years old, she was pretty smart. She was able to call 911, tell him that he was back. He couldn't get away from us because he had to drive right past us, and we stopped him, and he ended up confessing to everything.
So the suspect that you guys that you believe is who did it, you guys kind of, if you want to talk about it a little bit, have let him know that previously that you're still on his trail.
Oh, absolutely. What happened was when he did that, then we started checking into his history.
Okay.
One of the things that I found out was that he had committed a retail theft in Hopewell. He stole a chainsaw from C&I. Actually, what he did was he took he took the price tag off of a $100 chainsaw and put it on a $400 chainsaw. Was able to get it. Hopewell caught him, charged him with summary retail theft. When I found out what he did, I contacted them. They withdrew that and charged him with a misdemeanor. I made it my mission that I was going to find out that didn't do anything wrong, just everything that he did. So it reached a point where he wanted to charge me with harassment. So he retained an attorney. After a conversation with the attorney, his attorney said, "Well, what do you want?" And I says, "Well," and I told him what everybody else had been doing, the polygraph and the DNA. And he says he'll do that. The morning of the polygraph, he showed up high. We're not sure if it was drugs or alcohol. He definitely had been drinking alcohol and refused to submit to the polygraph examiner. Said, "I cannot give him a polygraph." And he refused to give us the DNA sample. So again, that he did nothing at that point to eliminate himself. And then again, moved out of the area.
So what'd you do since then to kind of let him know you're still on his trail?
He actually, at one point, was out in Arizona.
Okay.
Andy's brother was a detective in Tucson. Had since retired. When we found out where he was at, Andy can tell because he's the one who made. He's the one who made. The
you
phone
just don't
calls.
want to slip up and say what he said.
So we find out he's in the same area as Tucson, but not actually in the city. But my brother still had connections out there.
Okay.
And gets me the name of a guy who works cold cases for that county sheriff's office. And we send them enough information on him. They follow him around. They check on him for a couple of days. And they know that he goes in, because he is a tradesman, and he goes, when he's going to work, he'd go to this specific place all the time to get a cup of coffee and a donut. And so the two detectives sat down. They went there before him, and they're sitting at a table. He comes in, gets his coffee and donut. He's ready to go out the door. And they said, "Hey, sit down, drink your coffee here with us." And he said, "Oh, no, I got to get to work." And they said, "No, sit down for a couple minutes. We want to talk to you." And they show him their badges. And so he does sit down, and he says, "What's this all about?" And they start talking to him a little bit, and he's real hesitant to talk. And they said, "Well, Jimmy Essek and Andy Gall wanted us to greet you and say hello." And I will give credit to Jimmy. I know we're replacing the best of Beaver County.
Right.
And Jimmy's like, "We may not be the best, but he is dang good." And what happens is our guy jumps up from the table and expletive Jimmy Essek.
Tells him, go screw yourself.
Something like that.
And runs from the place.
All right. You guys want to throw your headphones on? We do have a phone caller.
Okay.
Good morning. You're on Beaver County Radio. Hey, Georgie, what's up?
I think it's even more than 20 years now. But Dominic Peoples was an Ambridge guy, and they never were able to determine where he was killed, only that he was dumped on Route 79, and it was in like Adams Township, I believe. So Butler County PSP has that case. Pennsylvania State Police have that case. Of course, the Beaver County state policeman from back then assisted them because of where Dominic came from. But as far as I know, and when I say this, it's not a complaint against the state police. They keep the stuff close to the vest, and they don't share a lot of information except a need-to-know thing. So even though I'm aware of Dominic Peoples and the case, I don't know a lot about the background, but I don't believe they've ever been able to solve that case. Well, on the same token as Dominic Peoples, because being an Ambridge guy, but if you remember that David Legge ended up hanging from a bridge up at Independence Township, and that one happened he was an Ambridge guy too. That happened way back in 1982.
That was the van one, right?
That's a what?
He was in a van or something. Was that one?
Well, yeah. They found his van.
Yeah.
And whoever killed him threw him off the bridge, but his foot got caught.
Right.
And so he was literally hanging there. And when you look at that part, he was involved in some gambling and stuff. Now, I know there's none of that stuff that goes on now in Beaver County.
Absolutely not.
But back in the 80s, that there was illegal gambling. Now the state runs all the gambling, so it's okay. But there was illegal gamblings and numbers, and people owed money, and that was all what was tied into Legge's case. Jimmy Harden and I go way back. Jimmy, he's still serving. He'll always be serving time. But Jimmy used to send me a letter from penitentiary. Whenever we would solve a case, he'd still follow along with the Beaver County News and tell me, good job on that and that type of thing. But Jimmy. Well, I know, but Jimmy was originally a police officer. He worked in Monaca. I worked with him. Was in the same police car. He was a constable. Jimmy Essek, who's with me here, he was a constable for years. Jimmy was an interesting character.
Jimmy Harden, that is.
Jimmy Harden, yeah. Jimmy Essek's legit.
I guess that is a good way of saying that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, Georgie. 724-774-1888 and 843-1888. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more right after this here on Beaver County Radio.
Got kids? Too much to do? No time to cook? Download the McDonald's app today and get dinner delivered straight to your door from DoorDash. McDonald's makes it easy for you and your family. Download the app today and get exclusive deals and rewards. McDonald's. I'm loving it.
The New Brighton Halloween Parade is the wildest, scariest, funniest, and ghoulishly fun event of the season. Join the New Brighton Halloween Parade Committee and Beaver County Radio Wednesday, October 22nd, starting at 6 p.m. for a special live broadcast and video stream simulcast of the parade on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Special coverage is being brought to you by Electric Garage Door Sales, I Care on 3rd, Hallowed Grounds Coffee Beanery, Monroe Auto Body, the J&J Spratt Funeral Home, Gordon Auto Service, the Beaver Valley Choral Society, Forward RX, Express Employment, the New Brighton Halloween Parade Committee, and Beaver County Radio.
Want to make football season better than ever this year? Plan now to join your friends at the Hangar in Moon Township, the place where good times and great food meet. Watch your favorite sporting event on one of their 18 big screen TVs while you enjoy their famous wings, beer battered fish, pizza, or Taco Tuesdays indoors or on the outdoor patio. Check out their award-winning menu online for lunch, dinner, or a special night out. This football season, hang out with your friends at the Hangar, the best kept secret in Moon Township at 500 Flaherty Run Road.
They say good things come in threes, and I can say it's true as far as reasons to visit Freedom United Federal Credit Union this month. This is Andy Dangle, Board Chairman. For starters, Freedom United celebrated International Credit Union Day on Thursday, October 16th. We featured free treats from the ice cream emergency truck in the parking lot at the Rochester office. It's also around this time of year, 86 years ago, that Freedom United Federal Credit Union was organized by a group of Freedom Oil Company employees. No, contrary to popular belief, I wasn't already on the board of directors back then. Finally, it's Trick or Treat Month at Freedom United. Stop in anytime and get treated to some of the best loan rates around. The trick is deciding what to buy with your newfound cash. Loans are based on credit approval. See? Good things do come in threes at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
We do it right the first time. It's a strong statement that many auto repair services make, but at Gordon's Auto Service, they really mean it. As the area's most experienced and complete auto repair shop, they get your repairs done right the first time, so you don't have to keep coming back over and over again. More than 3 generations of knowledge and over 50 years of experience serving Beaver County, Gordon's Auto Service, getting it right the first time, every time. 4302 Marion Hill Road, New Brighton.
Beaver County Radio's news
Honey,
source.
I found the perfect place for my parents and us.
Where?
St. Barnabas. For us, the Woodlands Carriage Home Community. And for my parents, condominium-style living at the Village. My folks will love the Village. There's an indoor mall with shops, restaurants, and more. And we can relax, knowing they're safe and secure.
That's what I plan to do when we move to St. Barnabas. Relax.
Call 724-444-5568 or visit stbarnabascommunities.com.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to have provided content and sponsorship for the program. Tune in this Sunday at 11:30 for an encore presentation of today's program on Beaver County Radio. And next Thursday at 11 for another edition of the Best of Beaver County on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.
It's 11:29 in Beaver County. About a minute early, but Noah's in the room, so let's do news. Noah?
Yeah, let's do it. Good morning. On this Thursday, October the 16th of 2025, I'm Noah Haswell here on Beaver County Radio. We will have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. Pennsylvania State Police in Beaver reported via release yesterday that 25-year-old Tavon Goodnight of Baden was apprehended on Tuesday for being the suspect of a shooting in Aliquippa on Tuesday, which killed 24-year-old Gavad Tyson. This shooting occurred at approximately 9:05 p.m. at 1117 Wade Street. Goodnight and an unidentified 21-year-old woman were reported to be involved in this incident, and Goodnight shot once with his firearm, which hit Tyson in his right thigh when Goodnight got involved in a physical altercation with Tyson. Tyson was pronounced dead a short time later at Heritage Valley Swickley. Beaver County District Attorney Nate Bible approved a criminal homicide charge for Goodnight, who is in the Beaver County Jail without bail. Pennsylvania State Police at the Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh reported via release yesterday that 27-year-old Noah Trombetto of Duquesne was arrested on October 5, 2025 for disorderly conduct at the Rivers Casino in Pittsburgh early that morning. Trombetto and 29-year-old Elijah Swain of Pittsburgh engaged in an argument at Flipped Restaurant at 1:25 a.m. Trombetto continued his loud arguing and did not leave despite security telling him to leave, and he resisted arrest from security when security tried to escort him out of the casino. Trombetto then fell on the floor and resisted attempts to be restrained by security when security tried to restrain him until Pennsylvania State Police arrived at the scene. He was compliant with them and they arrested him. Trombetto was released without incident to his fiancée, and he will receive filed citations by mail. A SWAT situation occurred yesterday in the Middle Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, and a wanted woman was taken into custody as a result of it. According to Allegheny County dispatchers, emergency crews responded to the 100 block of Aaron Street at 4:47 p.m. yesterday. Police confirmed that a woman that had outstanding warrants barricaded herself inside a house on Aaron Street, and the woman surrendered without incident. SWAT units received a call to help out with this incident. The identity of the woman who was apprehended is unknown at this time. President Donald Trump has posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist who was fatally shot last month while speaking at Utah Valley University. Tuesday's ceremony coincided with what would have been Kirk's 32nd birthday. Trump praised Kirk as a fearless warrior for liberty and a beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before. Kirk founded Turning Point USA in 2012 and played a significant role in conservative politics. In a sign of Kirk's close ties to the administration, he is the first recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom in Trump's second term. And several topics, including safety, were discussed at the Beaver County Commissioners' work session yesterday morning at 10 a.m. at the Beaver County Courthouse in Beaver. How does Beaver County safeguard their residents from violent attacks was a question that was asked to the Beaver County Commissioners during the audience participation segment of the session. Here are the responses from Beaver County Solicitor Garen Fidelis and Beaver County Commissioner Chairman Dan Camp.
I would say we have a county ESU unit that is second to none. Compared to other counties around the area, ours is much more tactically advanced, much more organized, and I think we can say for the residents of Beaver County, we have an elite unit that's available that if something like that were to happen.
We did just recently, this past year, invest in hiring of one individual who's full-time that only focuses on those types of things. So training businesses, training schools, training fairs, any football games, anything that they need, the county does offer those resources for.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Mostly sunny today. We'll see highs near 61. Clear skies and a little on the chilly side tonight, as a freeze watch will be in effect late this evening through early Friday morning as we drop down to lows around 35. And some patchy frost to start the day tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll see lots of sunshine throughout the day, along with a slight chance of showers in the late evening. Expect to see highs of 63 and lows of 46. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Thursday, October the 16th of 2025 at 33 minutes after 11, we've got a temperature of 55 degrees currently in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM, AM 1230 WBVP, 95.7 FM, and 1460 AM WMBA, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Get all stars now.
No, that's not the right show open. I don't know why Scott's show open appeared in there, but all right. Oh, boy, the trolls are after us today. So, all right. We're visiting this morning with Andy Gall and Jim Essek, and we were talking about cold cases in Beaver County, and specifically the 20th anniversary of the Anna Rocknick murder that's going to come up. It's coming up on Christmas Eve. Couple comments online. One of them says, David says, two great men that have done so much and continue to do a lot for Beaver County. So that was one of the comments that's online that somebody shared
You didn't pay him for that.
You didn't pay David for that? Are you sure?
He might send me a bill.
Now, so we were talking about the one particular suspect that you think is who did this to Anna Rucknick. And has he been a suspect in the other cases possibly, or just this particular one?
As far as in our area, no, I don't believe we had anybody complain about it, because he really didn't have his own company. I went online, I've been online recently between Facebook and just the internet and keeping track of him. And in Sarasota, Florida, Bradenton area, there are Facebook posts about how he ripping people off. And in the Tucson area, about him ripping people off. There actually was a Facebook post that I came across from 2023. That was, the person was obsessed with him and had pages and pages and pages on their Facebook page. I reached out to that person via Messenger, just informing who I was, and asked for them to call me, that I would have information and would like to talk to them. They never returned the Facebook message. My nephew is a deputy sheriff in Florida, and in Florida, which is a lot of states, the sheriff's office are the primary law enforcement agencies.
Gotcha.
The bigger cities have one, but mostly the other areas. So I reached out to my nephew. The person that posted on Facebook had posted their name and that they were a private investigator, and my nephew was unable to find anybody by that name, even in their area, or let alone be a private investigator. So which I thought was an anonymous. But we constantly are keeping tabs on it. Crime Solvers, our Facebook page, and that's why we keep doing these interviews and stuff, just to keep it out there. Because we're hoping, like I said, one day during a conversation with somebody says, oh yeah, this kid said this to me, or this person says this. And it might not be. I mean, I'm just, he's at the top of my list.
Right.
Because he meets everything that we thought the person could have happened.
And one of the things is when we reached out to the county near Tucson where he was living, and when we talked to the people in Florida and other places he has, because we can track somebody. It's called an online search, and it's anytime a police department would pull you over for a red light violation but run your plate, that gets listed. And so we're able to track where people have been. And we always tell, and that's why these guys, they had lots of work to do, but they felt if this was a suspect in such a terrible murder, they wanted to see if there's a possibility he connected with a murder out there.
Out there, yeah.
I personally think when we talk about suspect number one, that he is not necessarily a violent person regularly, and that this happened. Maybe he didn't go in there with the idea he was going to kill her, because I think he thought the place was empty. And so it was a reaction type of thing.
Maybe desperate for money for drugs?
Yeah, and I feel that maybe his conscience at some point will get the better of him. And because this may be the only violent crime he ever committed. So, but we always let each of these departments know what it is we think he did, so that they can look and see if they have anything that matches up that would be unsolved.
Has there been any red flags so far?
Not so far. That's not involving him.
He doesn't stay in the same place for a long period.
Oh yeah,
of
if he's
time.
ripping everybody off. So yeah.
And again, it's sort of like that. And again, we've had that here. The people that we refer to as gypsies, they come in, they get on the elderly, they pick the elderly, and just scam them. And we're having and especially now, most of the people aren't going to houses. With the internet,
right,
they're able to scam people just by a phone call, scaring people that their family member has been arrested and they need this for bail, and just they dwell on those type of people, and that's the way he is. it's very evident that he picked somebody. He's a talker. He will try to convince you. He's definitely a salesman. And again, if there's a lot of people like that. If they put that much effort into doing a legitimate job, they'd be millionaires.
Has he ever been back to the area of where this crime was committed?
Not that I'm. His family is still in the area.
Okay.
One of them. Whether or not they've been, like I said, I've been retired for 10 years now, and but again, I'm still somewhat not doing it like a day-to-day type thing. But if I get a phone call, not in this case, but other cases where it's the history. I've been Andy sort of when he asked me the other day about doing this, check your notes. I don't have any notes. Okay, I didn't take a lot of stuff. I didn't take anything home with me when I retired, so I don't have any. Andy's is a historian. He loves doing these things. Mine's still in my head, and I'm thankful that my memory is very good. I can picture that night. Exactly who did what and where they were at, and so it's in me. That those memories are still there, and we're not going to forget.
I'm sure somebody that's investigating and doing these kinds of things, what you guys are doing, and having a passion for this, it has to be like a kind of like a feel-good moment when you are able to or can connect the dots on something and solve something. So it's kind of like a challenge, actually, to
better than
solve
a
this.
feel-good moment.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, has there been any you have solved recently?
That me? No. The detectives, and I was involved in it initially. The detectives were able to solve the Annette Rose tow cars case from up in Hopewell.
Right.
Not too long ago. That was going on. We were looking at that when I was still working. The guys finished that up.
And if I'm not mistaken, because we're on the board, that we, the crime solvers, actually contributed money for the DNA, for extensive DNA.
The
crime lab. The crime lab is only able to do so much, but there are a lot of private companies that will do a lot more, but they're for profit.
Right.
So there's a fee that was charged. So Pat Young came to the board, the Crime Solvers Board, and asked for money. And again, as long as it's legitimate, we will. And that's why it's important, that the Crime Solvers, which has been in existence for a long time, we get our funding from donations.
Right.
So if people are listening to this or whatever, if you'd like to donate, it's a very good cause because we are very strict with the money. Just yesterday, there was another tip that actually solved a homicide, and so the reward had been offered a while ago, and so now there's an email going around asking all the board members if it's okay to distribute that money. And so that's what we do. But again,
can you tell us what that tip and what the homicide that was solved was? Are you able to, or?
Give me a second.
Okay, all right.
It was Aliquippa homicide that occurred not long before I had retired.
Okay.
And District Attorney Dave Lozier had come to the board and asked for money.
Okay.
And for a reward, and so.
Well, in the meantime, while he's looking for that, make us familiar a little bit, our listeners, with this one case we were talking about, the one in Hopewell there. What occurred on that one and the arrest that was made on it?
Well, they, in 1975, a woman was found in the creek that runs in Hopewell Park.
Okay, I remember that one.
Her name was Annette Rose Tokars. Hopewell Police, the county detectives, and the state police all were involved in the initial investigation. Annette Rose was 23 years old, and the departments did an excellent job of compiling suspects and people and witnesses, but they weren't able to get over the hump. The state police held the evidence for quite a period of time. Then it was transferred to Hopewell, who kept it secure. And then Hopewell turned it over to the Detective Bureau, and one of the detectives took a alternate light source, which wasn't even available in 1975,
right,
and was able to find a semen stain on her coat. We ran it through CODIS. We tried to run it through CODIS. The stain was not good enough to give enough alleles, and so we had to go to a private firm to try to do that. That's
Gotcha.
where we had given some money, the Crime Solvers. Then we ended up, the bill, of course, like everything else, went a little higher, and Dave Lozier was able to give a little extra money from his fund. And so ultimately, they were able to narrow it down. They had a prime suspect. It wasn't them. It wasn't her.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't this guy who we thought it was for a number of years. We were able to get his daughter to give a DNA sample to compare. Well, they were able to narrow it down to someone else, and as soon as that came in, the detectives recognized the name as being an ex-boyfriend who was in the police report, and they were able to determine that with what they had, they would have been filing charges against that guy, but he had passed on.
Ah, okay.
But it gave
Right,
some
yeah.
closure.
To the family, at least.
We had talked to Annette's sisters over the years, wonderful ladies. They were, at least they had an answer finally. So
and he's rotting in hell, so
he's rotting
it's all
in
good.
hell.
So the case that we were talking about, we're going to be issuing money now for, was the homicide case, which led to the suspect identification and conviction of Lamar Seymour. There was a 2023 case where Davia Sparrow was shot in Aliquippa.
Okay, I remember that one.
And the reward, actually, the information came through, and a reward was offered through Crime Solvers.
Okay. That's the way they had a young man killed in Aliquippa, and then the next day or two later, one in Ambridge, right by the library.
Okay. All right, 724-774-1888, 843-1888 if you have any questions or comments, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more right after this.
As part of its professional responsibility to the public, the Beaver County Bar Association surveyed its members on whether Judge Dale Faust should be retained in the upcoming November 2025 election. This non-political, confidential poll reflects the informed opinions of local attorneys who have observed Judge Faust's performance firsthand. 97% of members responding to the poll favor Judge Faust's retention. Information about the poll can be found at www.bcba-pa.org, paid for by the Beaver County Bar Association.
Want to make football season better than ever this year? Plan now to join your friends at the Hangar in Moon Township, the place where good times and great food meet. Watch your favorite sporting event on one of their 18 big screen TVs while you enjoy their famous wings, beer-battered fish, pizza, or Taco Tuesdays indoors or on the outdoor patio. Check out their award-winning menu online for lunch, dinner, or a special night out. This football season, hang out with your friends at the Hangar, the best-kept secret in Moon Township at 500 Flaherty Run Road.
It's time to wake up, Beaver Valley, with Pastor David Grove from the Church of the Redeemed of Beaver Valley. Tune in to Beaver County Radio this and every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. It's time to wake up and turn our hearts back to Jesus Christ. So wake up early this Saturday and tune in to Wake Up Beaver Valley from 9 until 10 a.m. right here on Beaver County Radio.
They're back.
Stop out to New Brighton's 100th annual Halloween parade. It's back this year by Gaulish demand. Make plans to come enjoy this spooky New Brighton tradition on Wednesday, October the 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Legend says that this parade is full of your favorite ghosts, ghouls, goblins, fire trucks, and bands, and it started back in 1925. Come out and celebrate the 100th parade by dressing up in your favorite costume, or if you have a group, band, or float that you want to participate in the parade, email nbparade@gmail.com. Beaver County Radio will broadcast the parade on Facebook Live and YouTube as well, so that families and friends around the world can be a part of this 100-year-old treat just like me. This parade will feature local bands, and of course, the best thing about Halloween is candy from my cauldron. So come out and enjoy the New Brighton Halloween Parade at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, October the 22nd, and have a ghoulish good time if you dare.
It might be time to repair or replace that old garage door. Call on Robin and her team of expert installers at Electric Garage Door Sales in Monaca. Dial 724-774-3200 and your door will work like a charm. Featuring CHI quality garage doors, LiftMaster garage door openers, and over 50 years experience, Robin and her team will get it done right. Electric Garage Door Sales. Give them a call at 724-774-3200 or find them online at electricgaragedoorsales.com.
Discover thoughtfully curated women's and men's fashion, accessories, shoes, bags, and select home accents at Reclaim Threads Consignment Boutique, opening soon in Beaver. Reclaim Threads features mid-tier to luxury brands, handpicked to help you find that one piece that sparks joy and elevates your wardrobe or home. Reclaim Threads is more than a boutique. It's a welcoming space where sustainability, individuality, and community come together. Interested in consigning? Just call 878-201-3138, connect on Instagram or Facebook, or stop by 505 3rd Street. They'd love to meet you.
October is Spooktacular Savings Month on all new in-stock 2025 Ford F-150s at Moon Township Ford. But it's much more than that. It's time for the Beaver County Radio annual Trunk or Treat Car Cruise event at 4301 Dutch Ridge Road in Brighton Township on Saturday, October the 18th from 4 to 6 p.m. As the proud presenting sponsor of the Trunk or Treat, everyone at Moon Township Ford invites you to come out to the biggest and best car cruise of the season, an event that's both spooktacular and spectacular for the whole family. Fun activities for kids and adults alike as well. Moon Township Ford will be displaying a few of their cars, along with classic cars sure to turn heads. Visit Moon Township Ford this month for their October Spooktacular savings on 2025 Ford F-150s, or visit them during the Trunk or Treat Car Cruise on Dutch Ridge Road on Saturday, October the 18th from 4 to 6 p.m.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Put freedom in your future. Freedom United Federal Credit Union in Rochester.
All right, we're back here on Beaver County Radio. About 8 minutes till top of the hour, around 7 minutes, 53 right on the nose. Coming up, we'll have Jimmy Fela Fox Across America. It is Thursday night, so tonight we'll be at the track at 8 o'clock. And don't forget, tomorrow night's high school football as, where are we off to? Montour and Montour and Aliquippa at Heinz Field tomorrow night. So that's the game we'll have for you. We're going to be in Hopewell next week with North Catholic and Hopewell. So tune in for that, 6:30, and then the Falcone's Moon Township Ford wrap-up show after that as well. And then don't forget, this Saturday, come out to our Trunk or Treat here at the radio station. It's presented by Falcone's Moon Township Ford. We've got raffles. We've got pumpkin painting. We've got cookies for the kids. We've got prizes. We've also got Hank's Frozen Custard will be here, face painting, train rides, and just a good time from 4 to 6 p.m. on Saturday here at the Beaver County Radio Studios on Dutch Ridge Road in Brighton Township. All right, last couple minutes, we're visiting with Andy Gall and Jim Essek this morning. We've been talking mostly about the Anna Rocknick case that will be 20 years old coming up on Christmas Eve this year. You guys were talking a little bit off the air. So what are some of the things you mentioned, Andy, that happened in that case that kind of will kind of moving forward will be more things that help crime solvers in solving crimes?
One of the things we did was the FBI came in, their violent criminal apprehension program. Basically, they're the profilers.
Okay.
So what they did was they came in and they reviewed the entire case. They took all the case files and their people, that they have a whole team that are dedicated to doing this, reviewed the whole case and basically came up with a bunch of stuff that they think might have happened. And they recently, on September of 2023, issued a report And after reviewing the entire case, they feel that our number one suspect is the guy we've been talking about the whole time.
Okay.
So when Andy talked about online, what they did was they, through their system, had gone through and has given us a timeline of from 2005 until 2013 on this person. And so those are some of the things that we've continued to, the investigators, myself and Andy are just, we're the historians now and able to, if a question, they can't see it, then they'll call us. But there's several other things that Andy can refer to.
This case, one of the things about cold cases are the police officers retire, the guys who did the initial investigation, some of them pass away. And so what we had done back in 2012, we went to a guy, he's passed away now. His name is Dr. John Chapin up at Penn State Beaver.
Okay.
He had a class where they weren't teaching criminal justice, they were teaching how to make video. And so we got him to assign a student to us.
Okay.
And we interviewed the two initial responding officers while it was still fresh enough in their minds that they would remember these things. And so we could keep them. Now, we wouldn't be able to use that in court, but for the police officers who are doing things with this later, they can review that video and get theirs. We had the ambulance people who had her in the ambulance and what happened there. We had Chief Lively on there with what Anna said, and we laid out the whole case that way. It doesn't come off like a movie, but it comes off like it just has all the verbal evidence that we would have in a court case if it would go into that.
Gotcha.
We did stuff with the Beaver County Times, and that's when we talked about Crime Solvers is a Facebook page. We also, if you did YouTube and put in YouTube Cold Case Beaver County, we did videos with them on a number of the cases from Crime Solvers. Anna's one of them. You'll see Jimmy and myself and Jack Lively all on these videos. In 2016, one of our detectives went to the University of Pittsburgh, and they had a group of students up there called Students Conquering Cold Cases. It was being run by a former commander of the homicide unit in Pittsburgh, was the instructor, and the students looked at everything, talked to some people.
I was interviewed for that too.
You were interviewed for that too, and looked at that and tried to get fresh eyes on it. So we've tried a number of things, even the old stuff of we would go out right before Christmas with every warrant from traffic on up in the Ambridge area, Ambridge, Harmony, Economy, Baden, and pick them all up and drag them in, take them to the magistrate, and if they had something to tell us about Anna Rocknick, we were willing to listen.
Anniversaries, we'd spend in unmarked cars and in people's houses in the area, documenting anybody that rode past or, came back.
Right.
There's that thing that the actor always returns to the scene of the crime.
Right, that's why I asked you that earlier, if you'd ever been back in the area.
We did that, set up cameras just in case the guys were looking a different way, anything that we could possibly do.
All right. In the last 30 seconds we have here, if somebody does have tips about any of these, number one, where can they go look for different cold cases or crimes that are unsolved? And then if they want to set a tip off, how can they do that?
Look at the Crime Solvers website or the Crime Solvers Facebook. There's a Crime Solvers website that's not being kept up too good because there's no Comcast. It's kind of been dumped. And if they have any kind of tip on anything like that, all you got to do is call your local police department, call the county detectives, call the state police, ask if there's a reward. Believe me, if it's worthwhile, there'll be a reward. We'll get there.
All right.
So we're just out there. We have money, and we're willing to spend it.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys coming in today. This has been very informative, and Gonna have to have you come back in again soon. Got to make this a regular thing, Andy. I think it's a very interesting topic and neat to talk about these things.
We got a million of them, sadly.
Yeah, I hear you. So, all right, coming up next, Jimmy Fallon, Fox Across America. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You're listening